Hey everyone, and welcome to Linda's Electric Quilters. Today we're going to take a look at the all-new Slide and Trim Hexagon log cabin template. That's kind of a mouthful, right? But you get to create these amazing, beautiful blocks. This one is just kind of the standard how they have in the instructions to do. It's going to give you a 9.5-inch block, or you could go all the way up to doing about a 15-inch block with doing the full 5 rounds on it, and it only takes just a few simple pieces of fabric, which you probably already have in your stash. So let's hop overhead and take a look at the template and look at how we're going to put this together. So what I'm going to do is, let me set my little samples off to the side. So if you're going with just the standard 3 round on this one, you're going to want 3 different colors of 1.5-inch strips. And then you're going to need at least a 5-inch square for the center. I just used a scrap, or if you have a charm pack of some leftover from that, you could do that. So we're going to open up the packaging here, and we'll start with the instructions. So on the instructions, it's going to tell you exactly from start to finish how you're going to do the 3-round piece. And then on the back, it's going to give you a figure to show you how to start, how to go to the next piece, finishing off the full 3 rounds, or if you want to go to the full 5 rounds, which is what I did here on this larger block. And you could take this as much as you want, past or up to that 5 rounds, and you could turn these into some really cute, amazing things. Not only a quilt block, you could make this a pot holder. If you wanted to make small little pillows out of this, you could. You could make these larger ones into placemats. For your dining room table setting for Thanksgiving. You could do Thanksgiving colors or Christmas colors. That'd be really, really pretty for those. So I'm going to set these off, and then we'll look at the template real quick. Let me grab a different piece of fabric so you can see it a little better. So the first part would be your hexagon piece, and that's what's going to create the center portion. And then you have your slide and trim template, and that's going to take you through each of the pieces that you need for your rounds. And you'll notice there's little numbers on these, and these play into how you're going to build around your center hexagon. And then in your figure directions, it also shows you when you're starting, you're going to line it up with number 1. But going forward, you're going to line up with 2, and then when we get to the next one, it'll be 3, 4, and so on. So, and once you get going with this, they go together quick, which is what we're always looking for. So, what we're going to do first is grab our center fabric that we want to use. So I'm going to use this leftover etchings fabric that I have, move my strips off to the side, and I'm going to cut around my center hexagon. You're using a 1/4-inch seam allowance throughout this whole project, and this template already has that 1/4-inch built in, so you don't need to cut another 1/4-inch away from it, so you're already built there. So I'm just going to get this to fit with my fabric as close as I can to save on fabric. So we'll start there, and then I will grab my rotary cutter, and I will start to cut around this bad boy, and you're just following directly on the side of the template. It is thick enough for you to cut right next to. So you're going to work all the way around this, and then go there, and then here. So that's going to be our first center portion. We can set our pieces off to the side. And then you get to build with kind of how you want these colors to go. So this is at the point now where you could lay out the colors and see exactly how they're going to line up all the way through your piece, just to see if that's the order that you want them to go in. I'm happy with the green, the yellow, and then kind of the, what was that, periwinkle? That's the color we're going to go with today on this. So I'm going to set those kind of in that order so I know that that's what I'm staying in. And then I'm going to start by taking my first 1.5-inch strip, laying that on the top, and it doesn't matter which part of it is the top, it's just wherever you start, that's what you've made the top. And we're going to line this up, and I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch, straight line stitch, 1/4-inch seam allowance, making sure that this strip extends past the top little points of the hexagon. So you want it to extend past a little bit. I'm giving it about 1 inch on either side. So I'm going to take this straight over to the sewing machine, and this is just a quick 1/4-inch stitch, real fast. So we'll line that up, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch it out. And a little bit further. Cut our threads. and we have that stitched. I'm going to go and take my rotary cutter since I'm here and just trim off to the side there. It's okay if it's a little curved. You can save as much of your strip as you want to. And then we'll take this to our mat to press. You're going to use your iron and press away from the center hexagon. So I'm doing this right side up, and then I just press over. This first initial press can be a little awkward because it's not holding on to anything on the sides. So always kind of watch that you're keeping your sides nice, but you're pressing away from that. So if I flip it over, you'll see that that press line is pressing away from that center hexagon. So now that I've got that nice and pressed, I'll return back to my cutting mat, and I'm going to grab my slide and trim template, and I'm going to lay this on top, and I want to line the dotted line up to the seam line that I've made, and then line up the right hand side that's starting with number 1, the darker line, up with the right side of the hexagon. So dotted line on seam line, the darker line of the right on the right side of that hexagon. Get that nice and lined up, and then we'll cut down the left side. And then it's called slide because we slide it down, and then make sure dotted line is on seam, and then the right side of the template now is on the right side of the hexagon. So right side, and that's where we ended up with. Take our scraps, throw it in our little jar, and then you can give it another press if you want to. So then you grab that same color, if you're doing the same color rounds, and you're going to go clockwise around this. So I will then take my piece, set it here, flip it over to make sure it's extending enough past my points, and then I will take that over to my sewing machine, give it a quick straight stitch as we're going, and go all the way across that initial piece too. You're just doing that straight line stitch all the way over, even into that first section that we've done. Take your rotary cutter and cut off the strip. Be careful not to cut the actual hexagon. Set that off to the side, and then we're going to do another press, remembering to press away from what we've been working on. Press away from the center. Get a good press. I do it on both sides just to keep it nice and flat. And then we will grab our template. Now we've gone past number 1, and it shows you on your instructions as well. We're starting with number 1. As we go clockwise, then it's going to go to 2, and then we're going to do 4 of the 2s, and then the last one will be a 3. And they build on that from the numbers. So what we'll do is line up number 2 now, the darker number 2 line, with the right side of the template, with the right side of the hexagon, and line up the dotted line with the seam. Get that all aligned, trim down, come over, slide that template to where the right side of the template matches the right side of your hexagon, and trim, just like that. So then now we turn it again clockwise, throw on another strip, take it over to the sewing machine, and just keep going from there. So it moves really fast. I'm going to do this initial round with you, and then we'll do a quick time lapse to take us through the rest of it, and then we'll basically meet back up together at the very end so we can see the final project. So again, we'll flip this over just to make sure that we're not hitting our template or our center hexagon. We'll press away from the center, just like that. Press, press, press. Grab our slide and trim. We're still on number 2 here at this point, so line up the number 2 line with the right side of your center hexagon, the dotted line with your seam line, and then you will trim down the side there. And then slide that template all the way over to where the right side of the template is with right side of hexagon. And you just go. And you'll just be working through that all the way around. So we have a couple more rounds here together. Still staying on number 2 until we get to the very last one in this round, and that will become number 3 because it is a little bit longer. But you can see already how fast this is going together and how simple it is to do this super duper cute hexagon log cabin. I've always been kind of afraid of log cabins just based on the piecing side of it. And this template makes it a whole lot easier to put them together. So we're just pressing. Again. Line this up. Still on number 2. Line up the dotted line and the solid line and trim. Oh, is my dotted line? There it is. Okay. And trim. So do that one. Slide it over, dotted line, right side of template, right side of hexagon. Just like that. We'll do this one, and then we'll have one more until our final part of this round. Make sure that the strip hits perfectly where it needs to. Again, 1/4 inch seam allowance on this the whole project. Pop through this. Be careful when you are stitching that your seams don't fold over on one another. Ask me how I know, how I did the initial one. That's just something you want to watch. Your foot might accidentally catch that seam and flip it. So just always watch that. I'm going to press and press. Grab our template. Line this up. Right side, seam line, and go. Slide it down. Right side of template, right side of hexagon, and cut. And this is one thing to note, that I did only use 3 1.5 inch by 44 inch fabrics to complete this piece. You only need 3 of those strips to do all these rounds. So 3 different colors, or you could do 3 of the same color if you wanted to. But I just needed 3 different strips on this. So we're coming into the last part of this round. Call this one round 1. We're going to stitch that on. And we'll cut. And we will cut here. And then I don't need this strip anymore because we're done with that color, so you can set it off to the side, or if you're not using it anymore, you can throw it in your scrap bin. So plop this over, another press, and on the last one in round 1, we move from line number 2 to line number 3. So we'll line up line number 3 with the right hand side, dotted line with our seam line, and trim. Slide down, and trim that side. Okay, we were working in a clockwise motion, so we will work on this next portion now, and we're going to go into using the color of, I think we did yellow, right? I think that's, yeah, yellow. So we're going to start there, and then I will meet you back at the very end to see how it finishes off. Okay, so we're coming into our last part of this third round. We're going to line up our last strip. Put this under the machine, stitch it on real quick. I love how fast and easy this goes together. I hope y'all are enjoying it too. If you've got one at home right now, I'm sure you're doing this along with me, so I bet you're enjoying it. It's just so easy to put these together, and that's coming from someone that doesn't piece, so you know it must be really easy then. So we're putting this here, pressing, One final press away from the center. Last one we're going to be at is number 5. So we will cut, slide over, line up, cut, put our scraps in the scrap bin. I'm going to give it one final press, and then we're going to look at the most satisfying thing when you're piecing a bunch of seams together, and that is the backs. Oh my gosh, look at the seams, how they lay so flat and beautiful. And this went together just like that. So when you've got all these different pieces, you could plop these together and build around this and make a really cool quilt out of just a few of these blocks, or building them a ton together, or like we said earlier, making them larger, turning them into placemats. On this one, I changed the strip every color I went all the way around, which gave it a completely different look. Or you could stay with just the solid ones all the way through this portion. So I hope you enjoyed today's video on the slide and trim template. They are available on our website, longarmsupplies.net. Make sure you stop by and grab one, add it to your next order. You are going to have so much fun with this. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.